This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all.
Right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and it is FOMC day. I'm going to be going live for FOMC. I'll probably start a little bit before the stream, show the stream, not really say much, and then maybe make some comments and look at initial price reactions thereafter. So be sure to tune in to that. I was making a members video yesterday and I asked all the members, you know, if you got a chart request a chart and we'll do some TA on it. And there was a whole heap of altcoins, right? But as I was analyzing all these altcoins, I noticed that pretty much all of them were exhibiting the same structure. So I thought I'd briefly share this structure with you because if nothing else, you can look and see if your altcoin fits this structure, because most of them, I'm talking a good 90+% of them, fitted this structure. So I'll show you the structure, I'll show you a couple of examples of a couple of altcoins, and then you can go away and figure out if your altcoin is A, underperforming, B, right around where most of them are, or C, overperforming. So this pattern looks a lot like this. We get a range built out in here, okay, then we get a range break, we get a big markup, okay, a trend line breakdown, and then from here, most of them, almost all of them, have come back to chop the range. Now, the ones that are weak have broken down from that range and are retesting the lows. The ones that are bang average are right in this range and they're just chopping around here, waiting to make a decision. And there are one or two that are showing relative strength that have touched this range and then resumed upwards. So armed with this information, you can do the same analysis on your altcoins. And if they are either stopping short of the range and doing something like this, or if they've come back to the range and have bounced off, you can have, in my opinion, a little bit more confidence that you're holding one of the potential winners. If your altcoin has this exact structure here, which I'm going to show you in just a second with real charts, then you can say to yourself, okay, well, it's not doing anything particularly bad, but it's also not weak. And if you've got one of the altcoins, and I'll show you an example of this as well, which has done something like this, okay, has moved down from its range, then I hate to break it to you, but you are likely holding a loser. So an example of what I would consider to be a loser right now is Cardano, okay? And you can see we've got the range, we break out, we violate the trend line, we come back down and chop the range, and then in the case of ADA breaks down and is now well on its way to test the lows. I saw multiple altcoins that had this exact structure, and some of them are even at or exceeding their lows. So I would suggest to you, if you've got a altcoin that has chopped this range and broken down, you are probably holding, at least in the best case scenario, one that is exhibiting relative weakness, and in the worst case scenario, you're exhibiting one that is not going to take part in the bull run. So in validation for this setup is you need to see your altcoin turn back up and get back above the range. And then in here, I think you could say to yourself, okay, maybe there's a chance this thing is going to moon. So ADA would be just one example of one of them that is showing relative weakness because it has lost its range break. To give you an example of one that is doing bang average, okay, this is Ethereum. You can see we've got the range, we break out, we set a trend line, we fire a sell signal by losing that trend line, we come back down to chop around the range, and this is what I would consider to be bang average, okay? This is what an awful lot of them look like. It is neither leading to the downside nor leading to the upside, and so if you're holding one that exhibits this kind of structure, you can really say it's not the worst it could look, but it's certainly not a good looking chart at the moment. If you start to lose this range, I see no reason not to target much lower prices. And inversely, if we get a bounce off of here and a push, then I think you can say, okay, maybe this is not completely dead in the water. And to show you one that is exhibiting relative strength at this current moment in time, it is SUI. So again, you can see we had a range, we broke from the range, we trended up for a bit, we fired a sell signal by breaking down of a trend line, we came all the way back to the range, and in this case, we briefly wicked below, and then you can see we bounced off, and since then have been making higher highs and higher lows. So this is one that is showing relative strength. Now, this is by no means me suggesting that you should buy this one and dump the other ones. As always, I don't care about altcoins, but one thing that was very interesting is as I was analyzing probably 50, 60, maybe more altcoin charts, almost all of them had one of these three shapes. Very few had this relative strength look where it was pushing off. Almost all of them had the Ethereum one where it's hit the range and is chopping around, not doing much. And many of them, like I said, with ADA, for example, have broken down from the range. So I thought I would share that with you. You can see if your altcoin is obeying this structure, draw a range, draw a trend line, and see if it comes back to that range. And again, if it is bouncing off the range, you can probably breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief to know that not many of them are showing that kind of strength. If it's chopping the range, you can say, okay, better watch out for breakdowns here. And equally, you could maybe even think about adding if it is to get a push to the upside. And if you're holding an altcoin that's made it back to the range and is now challenging the lows, then look out below. There was maybe 1 or 2 charts that look nothing like this at all. 1 or 2 meme coins, for example, have a range or something and they just completely blasted off. Not necessarily every one of your altcoins will fit to it, but what we did notice was almost all of them were exhibiting this structure right here. So I thought I would share that with you. You can use this tool to figure out how much of a loser your current altcoin is. The big news of today is we've got FOMC. We're back to about 60-40. So are we going to see a 50 basis points cut? As I've been talking about yesterday and over and over and over again, really, they are very behind the curve, okay? We're now 170 basis points behind the 2-year bond yield. So they really do need to cut, and they need to cut big here. I think any kind of 25 basis point cut could likely see markets sell off pretty heavily. As of yesterday, there was some encouraging looks. The S&P almost printed a new high, or might have just printed a marginal higher high. The Nasdaq was trying to break out. The Dow Jones printed a new higher high. So happy days across the board. We saw breadth widen out a little bit with the Russell 2K pushing up. We're still looking for the VIX to roll over, although of course we are expecting a little bit of chop and volatility into FOMC as always. Gold to me looks like it's working on a half cycle low, and then we can see a push hopefully. And Bitcoin is starting to do Bitcoin things, okay? For a small period of time, it was trying to break out yesterday, so far right under resistance. If we can see bullishness come out of FOMC, I would think we are likely going to leave behind this cycle low. We are likely going to see a breakout and a push. And of course, we have to be on guard. If we do not get a breakout off the back of FOMC, or potentially by tomorrow at the latest, then we probably will be looking for something much more like this, somewhere into the first week of October. And that would also align with the stock market cycle low that is also due around the end of this month or early October. So it doesn't mean we have to see declines from here. We could certainly see pushes and then a cycle low, but we do have to be on guard and ready to respect some kind of move down into that cycle low as well. For me personally, I don't really care what happens to price today at all. What I care about is tomorrow, and more importantly, Friday's closes. That's what matters to me. Every FOMC, there are always shakeouts, right? Whether that's a quick wick to the downside and a big rally, whether it's up, down, up, and then down, right? Whatever it is, you know they're going to chop and stop everyone out. And then once they've done that, they'll reveal the direction. So I'm not too fussed by the candles that we see today. What I do think is important is the candle closes we see tomorrow, and more importantly than that, on Friday. Bearish closes for the week will be me saying, okay, that is the top for this daily cycle, and we should be looking out to the next cycle low. And big green weekly candle closes this week will be me saying, okay, we've probably got another week on top of that, and then we can start to look for a cycle low to show up. And it's the same deal with Bitcoin. I 100% expect chop games, big wicks to the up and down side. But again, I'm not going to be focusing on the tape. I don't care what happens to Bitcoin's price today or even tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow's more important than today, but Friday, the close, is the big one for me, because if we close the week on a breakout and particularly targeting a new higher high above here, then for me, this will have all the familiar symptoms of trying to force a bottom. And of course, inversely, if we can't close a weekly candle above this downward sloping red resistance line, then what have we got? Objectively speaking, we have got probably a left translated cycle here looking to roll over into that next cycle low with yet another lower high. So that would not be good. As I said, you know, do I trust any price action today? No. Do I care? No. Am I going to be focusing on the tape on the moment or watching the 1 minute chart ping around? No, of course not. As always, I'm going to let the dust settle, come back, and the focus will be on Thursday and Friday. The biggest question of all is, what color will Jay Powell's tie be? Of course, purple tie means we pump, and blue tie means look out below, heading for the cycle lows. So this is the biggest piece of alpha anyone will be able to take away. And if we do see a purple tie, it does have a very, very high hit rate for seeing pumps in the market. So will the meme continue to be reality? I think it probably will, since we live in meme times. And for those people that are saying, no way, Camel, no way Bitcoin's going to break out, well, you might be right. But equally, you might be wrong, because global M2 10-week lead has been breaking out in black, okay? And typically, as you can see, Bitcoin follows this very, very closely, tells me to be open to seeing a big, strong push come out of here over the next couple of weeks. And as Tony the Bull points out here, monthly RSI is attempting to break out of a wedge formation, okay, at the hard right edge. Let's get a magnifying glass. Check that out, okay? Slowly but surely working on perhaps resuming to the upside. And the same is true on the smaller time frames, okay? This is the weekly chart. Take a look at that. Breaking out. Now, it doesn't mean we could not quickly roll over. Doesn't mean this couldn't be a fake out and see something like this. Needless to say, the longer this goes on for, the more reliable and trustworthy it becomes. So far, it's early days, but it's more encouraging than yet another rejection like we've seen in the prior instances. Bitcoin on the 3-day Ichimoku cloud is also looking very, very similar to the last weekly cycle low push that we saw for Bitcoin. We saw this weekly cycle low, a little bit of chop, and then we got this big strong push for Bitcoin, and we did roughly a doubling in just a few weeks. Needless to say, if we can see something like this come out of here, okay, a doubling might put us somewhere around 100 to 120k by the end of the year. So that would be a pretty good year for Bitcoin if you ask me. And again, we're slowly but surely seeing more constructive looks for Bitcoin. If it can break above the Kijun Sen and the Golden Cross with the Tekken Sen, the corrective phase may well be finished, okay? So hasn't done it yet, a little bit more upside required, but again, starting to look an awful lot like the prior weekly cycle. And again, it's important to focus on the fact that from the low to the high was roughly a doubling, and it took just a matter of about 7 or 8 weeks. So 7 or 8 weeks low to high would put us at 100k-ish by the end of the year. And at that point, I really would be having to think that the original call of the left translated cycle top is probably still the base case. We've left easy mode, we're now in complex mode. And the same is true of the stock market, because take a look at this. First of all, the monthly MACD is comical. Look how big that is relative to all prior history. And we've also got this bearish divergence forming here, okay? So not the best look in the world, although it does make a lot of sense since we know long-term cycles should be looking to top sometime between November and December. So wild times, right? Wild times. One more time, just to be really clear, because I know there's a lot of people that are quite inexperienced that watch this channel. You don't have to pay attention to the price today. If anything, you'd be better off sitting out, waiting for the dust to settle, come back tomorrow, and then you can see if you can get some retests and whatever else going on. So, of course, make your own decisions. You do you. If you are going to trade, then make sure you respect risk, okay? Make sure you manage your stop sizes. Make sure you use stop losses. Be a professional about it. But for me, I've got plenty of positions on. I am eyeing new ones, but as I said a million times, I don't really care what the price does today. It is tomorrow and Friday that for me will be the deciding factors. So look out for the FOMC live stream. Probably going to be streaming ever so slightly before it's set to go live. I won't probably say much during the FOMC. I'll just let Power do his talking. And then afterwards, we'll take a look at some initial market reactions. I'll answer some comments and we'll just hang out for a bit, okay? So other than that, have a great day, respect risk, and I'm your boy Camel. Take care, cheers, bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key. Taking us normies on a